All right. So if you guys know the name Patty Mack, you already know who I'm talking to. And if you don't, you're about to. I work super close to him. I can hear all his conversations. And I was sitting in the room the other day and I heard this conversation happening. One of his friends just landed a new role, new title, new territory, fresh start. And Patty Mack was coaching him through it. And within about 90 seconds, he's got him standing at a 4-way intersection with 4 gas stations, one on every corner. He's asking, which one do you pull into and why? And so he's going to tell you the story because you're going to understand why his 40 years of sales experience always turns into an analogy. So if you guys know Patty Mack and you've met him before, or you've been in any of his classrooms, like drop a comment below, let us know how you know him. And I'm just going to turn it over to him and let him tell the story.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Yeah, so a really good friend of mine just landed a job as a VP of sales. So after the congratulations, best of luck to you, I said, hey, how are you going to do it? I said, what separates your company from your competition? Why would I buy you? And he goes on to explain that there's a lot of people in the field and a lot of people do the exact same thing that he does. And I said, wow, you better figure that one out real quick. And he says, what do you mean? And I said, well, you sound like a gas station. And he says, hold on, how's that got anything to do with what I do? And I said, well, think about it. You're in your car, you drive down the street, you get to a traffic light, and there's 2 or 3 gas stations on each corner. I said, what separates the gas stations? And he's like, well, I don't know, price. I said, yeah, price. But usually those gas stations are all the same price. So usually people then have to make a decision. And most of the time it's ease of entry, ease of exit, meaning the gas station's on the same side of the street that they're traveling. But maybe someone will decide to go to another gas station because they have an app and there's a pricing discount. Or maybe someone will go to another gas station because it has a shorter line given that time of year. I said, but let me tell you something. You don't want to be a gas station. Let me give you an example. I said, there are gas stations out there that separate themselves. Right? My wife, if you know my wife, I said, my wife drinks Dr. Pepper 24 hours a day. I get up in the morning, have coffee, transition to water and maybe soda in the afternoon. She starts with Dr. Pepper right from the beginning. So we go on a road trip, right? And I say, hey, I need gas. She immediately says, well, do you have enough gas to get to this gas station? You know what? Regardless of the price of the gas, that gas station has a fountain Dr. Pepper, and it has a certain type of ice cube and a certain type of styrofoam cup that she wants to keep her Dr. Pepper cold on the road trip. And he's like, well, that's on a road trip. You can plan for that. I said, yeah. I said, it goes a step further. We're driving down the road, middle of the day, maybe going to Costco, running an errand. And she's like, I want a Dr. Pepper. And I'm like, well, can we go into that gas station? No, we have to go into a specific gas station. That may require me to drive an extra mile to make a U-turn to go back to the gas station that was on the opposite side of the street, just because it has a certain styrofoam cup and a certain type of ice cube. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what styrofoam cup or what ice cube does your company have that your customers want, that your prospects want? What separates you? Because if it's solely just the same product, you're going to win and lose deals on price. And I know that's not the type of salesperson you are. So what specifically does your product bring to market that the customer wants and needs to have? My wife, a specific gas station has a certain type of ice cube and a certain type of styrofoam cup. You need to figure out what separates you from your competition.
Love that. All right. That was just one of many stories that we are going to have coming up. So stay tuned for more. Thanks, Patty Mack.
Thanks, Rebecca.